everyone. This is another Freedom to Feel conversation, and my guest today is Mary Tinucci. She's a clinical social worker supervisor, mentor, coach, and social worker educator. She's also an author. I will mention some of her books here, but I wanted to say that before. Her private practice is called Think Impossibilities, and I love that, where she provides individual and group supervision for social workers in Minnesota. She also provides career coaching for social workers in the United States. So, Mary believes that everyone has an important story to tell and that creativity in all forms is the key to effective outcomes in social work practice, education, human services, and leadership. So, this is my brief introduction to Mary, and she's an author, as I mentioned before. She's the author of the Poetry Lab, a curriculum guide for facilitators, but she also has other books and journals and planners on Amazon. So, but our conversation today is about her new creation that is the VCC, the Virtual Conversation Cards, a platform for virtual group facilitators. So this is my brief introduction again, but the full bio will be at the end of this video. So, Mary, this is just an intro. Would you like to add anything that I left out about yourself before we talk about the VCC?
I think I just want to add that I'm an optimist.
Yeah.
And see the world and my work and my approach to life through the lens of all things possible. I just think if we kind of think about what's possible instead of impossible, what are the opportunities in front of us instead of the barriers in front of us, we have a lot more success. And I think a creative approach to life is life-giving. And I really think that my work as a social worker, as a clinical supervisor, as an educator, as a group facilitator, is informed by both of those ideas, creativity and possibility. And I'm excited to talk with you today about the Virtual Conversation Cards platform that I created out of both of those ideas, that we can do things in the virtual realm better and with far more possibility of how we approach that experience of meetings online and groups online, and that we use a creative approach to enliven something that can be sort of
Yes.
constraint.
Yes, so true. I love that. I love the name of your company. I know when I was introduced to it, I think it was about 2 years ago, Thinking Possibilities. Yes, that's it. Yeah, and creativity is part of it for sure. So let's begin with that, I guess. What inspired you to create the VCC? I know you have a story on your website and I read it, but I would love for you to share here.
Yeah. Prior to COVID, I had some office space in Minneapolis that I rented several days a week, and I would meet with my clients individually. I provide clinical supervision for social workers who need it for licensure in Minnesota. And I would have individual meetings in person, and I would also facilitate groups of supervision groups with my clients in person. During that time, I love conversation and group work. I love facilitating groups and creating that space for whoever the audience is to do the work that they're prepared to do in that context. And one of the tools that I would use during group work is the use of simple discussion card decks, like conversation starters, prompts. And I created a specific deck for that population. New social workers. So all of the decks that I used were related to social work concepts. So it was a way to structure a meeting. I would have my participants think of a case that they were challenged by or working on, and then ask them to choose a card, physically pick up a card that was related to that concept, and then tell us the story about that. So that was a way to do some learning about social work, a way to share stories about their practice. Well, COVID happened, and I brought my whole business online. So I continue to meet with my clients virtually, as we're doing here, and both individual and group. And over time, it became clear to me that I needed to find a more creative way to facilitate meetings and groups in this virtual context, and was really missing the use of my discussion cards.
Yeah.
So I thought, okay, there has to be a way to digitize the use of this really important and useful tool for group work. So I started doing a little homework, and I have since worked. That was October of 2020 when I came up with the idea and found a company to help me start to, do the technology to create such a tool. Well, I have been through, if you include my stepson, 4 companies. I'm on my 4th company helping me develop this product. And it's functional and in motion, and I'm using it in my practice. And I really wanted to create a platform, a tool that would, certainly I could bring in a clinical supervision deck. But I wanted to create a place where if there was a therapy group, a support group for young people, that there would be a youth speaks deck. Yeah. Or a support group for lesbian and gay and bi and trans people, that there would be a deck specific to that population. So a therapist who's facilitating that group would have that as a tool to foster discussion, to increase engagement in the meeting, to keep people engaged in the virtual meeting,
right.
To have us have something else to look at that's attractive or pretty instead of one another only. So I've been on this mission since, over 3 years ago, and I'm very excited about the platform, the functionality of it, and am now just trying to get the word out for other therapists, social workers, people in the spiritual community, if they're having a spiritual group, that we can create more focused, relevant, meaningful conversations with one another in the virtual space. And I do believe it has application and use in those environments, but also in business. It could be used as a really excellent platform for a staff meeting. Could be used as a really excellent platform for some professional development, team development. The bottom line is the virtual world is not going anywhere.
Well, no.
And yet we need to have ways that facilitate engaging, meaningful, rich, relevant conversation with one another in all of these contexts. And I wanted to create a tool for myself because I was missing a tool that I used in in-person sessions. But then just really wanted to create a better tool for facilitators so that they would have more opportunities to be effective in their role as a group facilitator. And I wanted to improve the virtual experience for participants of any of those groups. And I think I've achieved that. And again, I was just really excited that you were willing to let me tell you about it and show you today.
Right. Yeah, you'll be showing too. Yes. So a question that comes to mind is one that is a guided question about the difference between facilitating the virtual groups with those cards in person and online. What would be the main difference?
Well, in person, like I think about my office in Minneapolis, it was a beautiful space. And beautiful. It just was beautiful, aesthetically pleasing. I could have the lighting turned down. I could have a glass table where all of my cards were facing words up. And so when my participants came and we gathered around the circle, that was the centerpiece. And there was this tangible thing that gave each participant a task to do, an action to take, to intellectually connect their emotions and thinking to a concept. It provided a structure physically in the room. Well, when we do a group online, we don't have those same tools to create a tone, a feeling, to create a structure, a natural structure. When we're sitting in a circle in person, I look to my left and it's clearly the next person's turn. But when we're online and we've got, 6 or 8 boxes of people's images in front of us, we don't have a natural way to know who's next. So while we're facilitating a group online, the facilitator has to be able and comfortable in a warm tone to be able to say, Mary, it's your turn next. What do you think? Or, to what I call directing traffic. so that we don't have awkward silences.
Yes.
And that everybody has the feeling that I'm a participant here, I'm engaged here, I contribute here,
Yeah.
I have a responsibility to show up here for others in this room. And I think when we're in the virtual space, it's harder to keep people in those attitudes or in those sort of expectations, different from when we're in a room that's beautiful and it feels nice and we're clearly, tangibly, physically next to each other. It's much more difficult for a participant in an in-person room to disengage from the group experience. So we have to work harder as facilitators to keep people engaged, invested, committed, responsible, all of those things.
Yeah.
And I think it's possible. And there's been a lot of talk about Zoom fatigue.
Yeah.
And a lot of talk about all these meetings online. I just am a believer that it was a gift to us that we could remain connected. And I feel very confident, and you're a living testament to it. I feel very confident that it is possible to create a warmth and an authenticity and a genuineness and a felt sense of I'm sitting with another human being.
Yes.
And we can be connected and we can have a meaningful conversation and do some meaningful learning and growing together.
Hi, Mary. Yeah.
It won't happen by accident. So I think I want to give facilitators both the message that I think it's possible, and this is a tool that we can really capitalize on. It's opened accessibility for so many people to belong. For people who can't make it to an in-person group, even now post-COVID, maybe they live in a rural setting or just don't have the transportation or whatever. So we can create so many more opportunities for people to belong, to learn, to connect, not be so isolated. And that won't happen by accident. The facilitator has to be really quite on purpose about that. And again, the Virtual Conversation Cards platform is one tool to add to the mix of wanting to be that engaged, committed facilitator.
Yes. How wonderful.
Of whatever kind of group,
Yeah.
My background happens to be mental health and social work, and I'm also an educator. But most definitely, I think about, very specific populations, people struggling with substance abuse or in recovery, people in spiritual groups or spiritual communities, the for-profit world, staff teams, the team development, nonprofit world. There's just all sorts of reasons people benefit when we gather.
Oh, for sure. Yes. Yes,
So.
a billion times to that truth. Yes. And I love the way you talk about belonging. Yeah, that's a powerful message. We all love that sense of belonging somewhere or being understood, being seen. It's almost like the idea that we matter. Somehow we have something to say that could matter. It matters to ourselves and others. It could help others. So that's such a wonderful idea. A question I have for you, I would love for you to show it right now, but before that, have you seen this idea of virtual conversation cards out there? Does it already exist? Or this is something completely new?
I haven't seen it. I have seen a couple of examples that get close. One is a phone app called Deckable.
Yeah.
And it's Deckable, Deckable. And I actually it's a marketplace for people who, like me, like to create discussion card decks or tarot decks, that kind of thing. This man, Nick Kellett, has digitized the use of those cards. And he's got a marketplace so creators like me can have their decks digitized and used on Deckable. So I have 3 of my decks on Deckable, but that isn't intended for group use. It's intended for an individual. So me as a person with my phone in my hand, I can, do a tarot reading, or I can use a journal card or something like that. And then online, I have seen some platforms that are about value sorting. So there's drag and drop functions on the computer for someone to do sort of a value assessment of their own values.
Yeah.
But I haven't seen something like this. I do think it's unique.
Haha. It sounds to me, I never heard of anything like it. So there you go. You're really living, kind of being the living message, the proof of possibilities and creativity. What's not to love about that, Mary? So yes, I would love to see it, that we would love to see it. So how does it work?
Okay.
Talk to me about, from the very beginning, what if we are interested in learning more, what's the first step and where do we go from there?
Okay, so I'm going to share my screen. And I think all you see right now is my platform.
Yes.
Okay. So how this works and how a person would find it is, my business is called Thinking Possibilities. And if they came to my website, thinkingpossibilities.com, they would see this menu across the top. Yeah. They would click on virtual conversation cards and they would land here. Actually, there's one more landing page that would land here that it's a login page, and a person would say, right, I'm going to log in here if I'm a subscriber, or if it says, I don't have an account, how do I get the subscription account? It will direct you to the shop where you could buy subscription access. Okay. But in the meantime, say you have an account, you log in, and this is the platform. Right. And you would send your participants of your group the link that's up here. And they get a password, and that you give them that password. And so all of a sudden, here are your participants who are present in the group. Ellie's here, Laura's here, Melissa's here, Josie's here, Kathleen's here. And this tip facilitator, that's me, Thinking Possibilities facilitator. Yeah. So this is the room, essentially, that you're facilitating your meeting or your group in. Right. And I right now have 7 decks populated, and I think the sky's the limit on the number of the kinds of decks that I could create. I use the clinical supervision deck on a regular basis for my social workers. Yes. But I also just recently populated a parents talk group, which is imagining for a parent support group. Yeah. And we'll use that as an example. Okay. You click on a deck, and by the way, this is a simultaneous use. So Valeria, if you were logged in, you would have control as well. So I would, as the facilitator, I would say, next participant is going to tell us who's going to go first. And in this case, it's Melissa. Yeah. And it shows down here in white that it's her turn. So she, on her computer, would say, I'm going to choose a category: managing parenting responsibilities, understanding child development, identifying support, resources, strengths, and resilience, check in and make connections, and the joys and challenges of parenting. Melissa would choose a category and just click on the card type. Let's say, let's go here. And when she clicks on that deck, that category, it spreads open, and then Melissa would choose a card. Yeah. And then Melissa would read us the card. Balancing act. How do you balance providing support and guidance with allowing your children to face age-appropriate challenges and develop resilience on their own? Melissa, how do you do that? So Melissa would read the card, and then we would be off to the races in a conversation about that. And as a facilitator, I would, support Melissa to answer the question, but it's more than that. It's now we start to engage the other participants. How do you all do that? How do you manage your kids facing a challenge, but you're wanting to foster their sense of resilience? Right. And then it becomes, what happens is that card goes down to the discard pile, so it doesn't get drawn again. And then we click next participant, and then it goes to the next person. In this case, it's me. And then I can go back to the categories, and there's usually 5 categories. Yeah. And I pick a category: managing parenting responsibilities. I click a card. Managing overwhelm. Can you share a recent experience where you felt overwhelmed by parenting-related concerns, and how did you manage those feelings?
I love those.
So the fun for me, well, the whole thing has been a challenge and fun. Yeah. But it's been fun for me to determine what kind of group could I imagine would benefit from some intentionally chosen questions and discussion prompts.
Right.
And then from there, what would be the wise categories? So I've made a daily intentions deck as well, is another good example. And I use this as a checkout often at the end of each group. And I'll say everybody gets a turn to choose an intention for the week or the day or the month. And the categories are financial well-being, intellectual well-being, physical well-being, social well-being, spiritual and emotional well-being. And I don't know why that's there twice. That's a glitch. Yeah. So we'll click on that card and somebody picks that card and then they choose their actual card. Hafiz or Rumi, anyone, find spiritual grounding in poetry written by Rumi or Hafiz. These two Sufi poets often wrote poetry about the spiritual world. Some read their poems as part of their daily spiritual practice. Yeah. You might consider that for the next month. Choose some poetry to be supporting your daily and spiritual journey.
Right.
So that's how it works. And like I said, every participant of the group logs in as well. Everyone can control, when it's their turn, can control the deck by clicking a card, reading the question, and then we're off to the races in a conversation about that really relevant topic for whatever group we're in.
Yes.
Part of what happens when people are in a Zoom call, and there's 6 or 8 people on the call, and there's nothing else to look at except each other.
Yes.
There's chances that a person could kind of disconnect from the meeting. Yeah. They're going to be doing some other document on their computer, but because this platform is in real time and we're all engaged and we all have a chance to control the decks or click the decks, I have a reason to pay attention and stay in the meeting.
Right.
Valeria, any questions for me about that?
Yeah, so you just mentioned Zoom. So this can be integrated with Zoom, Riverside FM's one that we are recording now, and so many others. Is that we can see I'll be able to see the participants, see myself, and at the same time, how would that work?
That's a great question. So a reminder for me that I've used it for a long time now, so I forget these nuances. What I recommend to my participants is we're in our Zoom call. Prior to the meeting, I send them the link and say, please log in, be logged in while we're at the meeting. Right. So you just maybe make 2 windows.
Yeah, that's what I thought. Yeah, I would have a second window.
So that you can see each other and engage in the platform at the same time.
How wonderful. I really love the platform, how it works. I'm not familiar with decks. So this is, it's new to me, but it's very simple. It looks very simple the way you explained. There's I don't have too many questions. It's just so simple. And the way to go back, I see their main deck. So you go back and the next participant. Of course, I would love to try. I think, is that something that you also suggest or recommend that somebody could try, let's say a free trial for about 3 days, or is that?
I think that's where we're headed. Yeah. I'm just now working with this final company who, they're really amazing, and they're able to smooth out some of the glitches so that these very simple steps of, okay, so how would somebody get quick access? How would they get a chance to try it out by a 3-day trial or a 7-day trial, that kind of thing. So I think that's next.
That's wonderful to know that you're working on that too. There's anything else? So I would like to mention again, who is this for? I have here as, that I wrote it down. I know you mentioned in the very beginning, but I would like to mention again. So this will be very useful for therapists, social workers, psychologists, and counselors who facilitate virtual support groups, therapy groups, or professional development and supervision groups. But you also said the platform will also be useful for supervisors, managers who facilitate virtual team staff meetings in any kind of business or nonprofit setting. You did mention that before. I just want to say that again, because this is important to know that you cover a very large group of people in the health community. So that's wonderful to know. And there's another question about the challenges. There's a guided question here that says the challenges and the importance of facilitating virtual groups and meetings in a skilled and intentional manner. So Intentional, that's a word that you use. So that's exactly the idea I got. That's very intentional because everything is there. We can take a look at before. So there is, it's planned, but at the same time is intentional and it's meaningful.
There are two concepts that I think are really relevant. First of all, to group work at all. So no matter the kind of group we're facilitating, whether it's a therapy group, a spiritual group, a community group, a team meeting, intentionality is everything, and we most certainly need to have a clarity of purpose. What is this meeting for? Why are we meeting?
Right.
Having an agenda is important. However, I really like to go with the idea of planned emptiness, so that if I have a meeting tonight for an hour and a half with a group of people, I'm clear about my purpose, and I really have a kind of sketched out agenda. But I'm going to really leave room for showing up and being fully present in that meeting and going where the group needs to go. Maybe my agenda is not where the group needs to go. I need to be willing to let that go and to go with the group. And Middleman and I can't remember the other thinker talks about that as planned emptiness. I love that notion.
Yeah.
And then the other way of thinking about the importance, especially of group work online, is this notion called community of inquiry. And an effectively facilitated group virtual experience attends to three areas of presence. One is, and it comes out of education, so education would talk about it as teacher presence.
Yeah.
And in this case, I think about facilitator presence. How do I bring my presence into this virtual planet? How do I make space for student or participant presence? How do I make space for their personalities to shine through and to really be present in the room? And how do I attend to what education would speak to as cognitive content or cognitive presence? I think about it in terms of content. Am I really deliberate about making space for the relevant, wise, contextual content and its presence in the room? My decks do that. My decks really hold the cognitive, contextual presence of the room.
Right.
But I have a job as a facilitator to really have a presence, my personality, to show up, my responsibility to hold space, to create a container, to hold that planned emptiness. And I have a responsibility to help my participants have a presence, for them to show up, for them to shine through in their personalities, for them to build connections in the group. And again, none of that happens by accident. It won't happen unless we're on purpose and we're cognizant of those ideas. Facilitator, participant, contextual presence.
Yes.
And I build all of that around not only just using this platform, but in the virtual realm. We have to be thoughtful about that at all times, because it's very simple for a person to disconnect from what feels like a screen.
It's true. Wow, especially, in the virtual world, for sure. I love that. That makes me think about the idea of group wisdom. I have heard that before. I don't know if you probably have too, that group wisdom is actually wiser than individual wisdom. So nobody really holding. The wisest person in the room, in the group, cannot be as wise as a group when they come together.
The collective power, the collective wisdom, the group wisdom.
Yeah, that's powerful. And that a facilitator would know that, would know how to guide, right? The group and its wisdom. That's so what, what's not to love about your wisdom as an individual too. Thank you so much, Mary. Let's go. I know this was timed, and I was hoping that we would have another 20 minutes to talk about this. So is there anything else that we missed? Any questions that I didn't ask, Mary, or any points? I have them here. It seems like you have covered. You mentioned that the decks, you have 6 of them now, but you are planning to add. It's just it's limitless, right? The possibility.
It is limitless.
And then we can integrate this with Zoom and any other kind of virtual room that can be integrated.
I think I could highlight, again, the why. I want to improve the virtual group or meeting experience, both for participants and facilitators, because it's a challenging experience. I want to improve that experience.
Yes.
I want to increase the engagement of participants, and I want to provide a tool for facilitators to be better facilitators.
Yes.
And so I think that thinking about those, like, why would I choose this? Why did I create this? What do I hope for others? That's what I hope, that we capitalize on this amazing technology called the internet and Zoom, and really help people do the work that they're setting out to do and can't do alone.
Yes, no. Yeah, that's beautiful. Yeah, I love how you went back to the why, right? The purpose, why to do what we are doing. This is so important to keep in mind, because that changed too with time per se. That changed the purpose of doing whatever we do change. But this is very much needed. The virtual world. I'm always here, but always with one-on-one, not a group. But I have been asked many times, of course, and this is an idea though. So once I have that figured out, I don't know how I'm going to have the group yet. I have not thought about it. Then yeah, you will be my go-to to ask more questions. And who knows, maybe I can use that for spirituality too, have conversations meaningful on mental health and spirituality.
One of the things that my current tech person is helping me think about is more expansive thinking about its evolution over time. And one of the things that she keeps telling me is, I can imagine subscribers, facilitators, creating their own decks and being allowed to bring their own decks into this platform. So I think that's an exciting idea.
Right. Oh, yeah, we can bring our own and then we add there. That's
right.
Also a beautiful idea. Yes, I would love
So then it becomes very relevant and very unique and specialized for the person using it.
Yes, so we can customize it. Right.
Yeah. Valeria, I want to give you access. When I'm done with my day today, I'm going to send you an email with the instructions, and you'll just have free access. You can just get in there and play around and give me feedback.
Yeah, I would love to try it. Yes, and I'll have probably more questions. Who knows? Yeah, definitely. So for now, Mary, the best way to find more information about the VCC, would that be your website? I have a specific link here, but talk to me about that.
Yeah, I think if we just let people know, you can go directly to thinkinpossibilities.com.
Yeah,
that's my website. And on the main menu, you will see virtual conversation cards, and everything you need to know about how to get access and learn more about it is there.
Okay, so I'll have the link on the podcast on this video interview notes. So thank you so much again, Mary, for your presence in our reality. I have to say that because we do need more, let's say, I say help, but it's really inspiration, isn't it? We need to be inspired to be not just the best we can be, but to be healthier and more peaceful and to connect with one another in a more meaningful way, in deeper way. That's has been my goal in life. Connection.
Valeria, your work is amazing, and what you offer the world and also people like me to be able to talk about our everyday work. I mean, I just really appreciated and enjoyed my times talking with you along the way.
Oh my God, yeah, I feel the same. I know we've been doing this for a while, not like this way, but now it's fun to meet you too. Thank you so much again, Mary, and we'll talk soon.
Okay, I'll be in touch.
Yes, we'll be in touch. Bye for now.